Uh, Bigger problem, Jordan Davis being out or the tackling of the secondary? Because I think it's a give and take with the secondary because you have so many playmakers.
An undefeated football Friday here on Birds 365 as the Eagles on Thursday night go to 8-0 with a win down in Houston against a not great Texans team who showed some grit, showed some toughness, but the Eagles did what they were supposed to do, go down and win, come home, and get ready for the second half of the schedule. Oh, that's right. There's not a second half of the schedule because we play 17 games. I'd love to say it ain't no. We got it. We're halfway home. No, almost halfway home. We're not even close to being halfway home here on the Birds 365. We got to get Paul Domowitch involved and get his take from last night's win and the Eagles' 8-0 start. Damo, best start in Eagles history. 8-0, never done it before. Is this the best team in Eagles history?
To be determined.
Good answer.
Yeah, Damo, you've seen a lot of those great teams. I haven't been around the Eagles nearly as long as you have, but I will say this is the most talented Eagles team. I think it's more talented than the Super Bowl 52 team. I'll go that far. I think I think they have more difference making players. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think so. Absolutely. The great thing and the frustrating thing about football, if you're a fan, is there are so many factors that are going to decide things down the stretch. I mean, I've talked to Dick Vermeil. He thought his 81 team was much better than the team that went to the Super Bowl in 80. Yeah. They started 6-0, finished 10-6 and ended up losing in the wild card game. Sometimes you peak too soon. I don't think that's going to be a problem with this team. I mean, the only thing that concerned me yesterday was their run defense. And I think that's something you're going to see teams try to exploit going forward. But, especially with Jordan Davis out for a few weeks.
Yeah. Bigger problem, Jordan Davis being out or the tackling of the secondary? Because I think it's a give and take with the secondary because you have so many playmakers. Chauncey makes another big play. It essentially turns the game, gives the Eagles a short field. They go in. That was it pretty much at that point. But they don't tackle. Chauncey doesn't tackle well. James Bradbury, not a great tackler. Darius Slay, not a great tackler. Marcus Epps, he's okay, but he's not great. Jordan Davis, I think, was evident to everybody, his difference. More four-man fronts. When they did finally go back to five-man, it was Marvin Wilson for the most part. He's elevated from the practice squad. He's obviously not Jordan Davis. That's not his fault. What do you think is the bigger issue there?
Well, I mean, I think the tackling by the secondary can be dealt with by the coach sitting them down, by Jonathan Gannon sitting them down and saying, "Hey, we're getting a little bit carried away with the takeover situation here. Let's get the guy on. Let's wrap before we worry about stripping the ball, because I think that's one of their bigger problems. Avonte Maddox doesn't bother tackling anymore. He just goes for the arm. He just wants to turnover. So they need to, they just need to emphasize better tackling. I think they're capable of it. They just didn't do a very good job of it yesterday. And they were up against a running back who's probably next to Nick Chubb, the best yards after contact runner in the NFL. So
he's good. I didn't realize how good he was, Tomo. He is good.
He sure is.
I know he's already been nominated. He might have won a scepter from Andrew Brandt on Angry Runs on the NFL Network on Tuesday mornings. Yeah, the guy just puts his head down and carries tacklers with him. So, yeah, very, very good young back. I want to talk a little bit more about the offense, Damo. I said this to John in the first segment. At their core, the Philadelphia Eagles are still a run-first offense. As good a year as Jalen's having, John was just singing the praises, and rightfully so, of Dallas Goedert in the game he had last night. We know A.J. Brown has been an unbelievable addition. When they want it, when they need it, they put the big hogs up front to work, and Miles Sanders just carries the mail. They did that again last night in the second half when they were looking to put the game away. This is still, for me, as good a running team as there is in the National Football League. Do you think that maybe last night they came in a little over-aggressive with the pass, and that might be one of the reasons why the game was as close as it was in the half?
Well, maybe a little bit, but I think part of it was Houston is better at defending the pass than the run. They only had given up 5 touchdown passes going into that game. I think they felt that if I think they thought they'd catch them off guard. Let's attack them with the pass early and then go to the run. And that's kind of what they did. And I was really impressed by the running game. And every week I'm getting more and more impressed with it. Yeah. Not only because of the offensive line, but Jalen is doing such a good job on those read options. You saw that yesterday, some of the holes that were, he was waiting for them to commit. And then suddenly Miles Sanders had a gaping hole to go through. And another thing that impressed me yesterday about the run game was Miles. I mean, he is starting to run with a little bit more physicality and decisiveness. He's not looking to bounce everything outside the last couple of weeks, which is what he needs to do. I mean, he was putting his head down and getting yards yesterday. And you like to see that.
Do you sometimes outthink yourself? Because this is an historically, and I'm talking about Houston, bad run defense. I mean, they are just awful defending the run. Yeah. Do you think the Eagles coaching staff kind of outthought themselves by thinking maybe we'll surprise them? Sometimes you don't have to surprise a bad team. You just, hey, you can't do this. We can. And they do it all the time in the fourth quarter when they just say, all right, we got to run the football. And they run the football on better teams. I thought the Eagles kind of made a mistake by going, and that was such a weird drive, Domo.
Yeah.
18 plays, 91 yards, the Eagles' first scoring drive. It took 8 minutes, and they were playing tempo the whole time. How do you do that?
I think they're getting bored. The coaching staff is, and they're doing things they might not be doing right now if they were 5-3, including what they did yesterday. I mean, you're right. It was obvious yesterday. Just attacked the hell out of them with the run because they couldn't stop it. And yet we saw, I mean, eventually it was a close to a 50-50 mix. But I think sometimes they have, when you're this successful, you think you can kind of like get imaginative, take some chances, like the crazy fourth down decision in the late in the fourth quarter when he goes for it in his own territory with a 2-score lead.
That was Brandon Staley-ish. But at that point, it works. You're right. They're getting a little bit haughty, but maybe they should get a little bit haughty. They're a really, really good team. But I got to tell you, I'm starting to worry about the injuries. All of a sudden, and I mentioned to Jody, I don't think a lot of people noticed, Avonte Maddox left late in that game. He tweaked his hamstring on punt coverage, and he limped off really quickly, sort of a jog, but you could see he was dealing with something. And they put the blue tent up immediately, and he got in there. And all of a sudden, Kayvon Wallace is in the game. And I think a lot of people didn't realize. They're like, why is Kayvon Wallace in the game? And it was Kayvon. They put Marcus Epps in the nickel. They didn't have Josiah Scott because he's hurt. They didn't put Chauncey in the nickel. They put Marcus Epps in the nickel, and it was Chauncey and Kayvon Wallace at safety. We talked about Jordan Davis. Jordan Mailata is playing, but he's not himself. And Jerry Hughes really, really gave him fits. And that's the guy, by the way, if they could have gotten him, they should have gave a 4th-round pick for Jerry Hughes. That guy can still play. All of a sudden, some of these injuries are popping up and saying, oof, oof, oof. That could be, as you talked about, the attrition.
Yeah.
You might have the best team. You might not win because somebody key might not be there on that game day.
Yeah. I remember one year that Belichick won the Super Bowl. About this time of the year, I mean, he was decimated. His team had so many injuries, but it turned out he had them early enough that everybody healed and was in great shape for the playoffs, and they stormed through the playoffs. And so, everything's timing. You didn't mention Fletcher Cox, which is another one. There's clearly something wrong with his leg. He hurt it yesterday early and was not the same player. I mean, he's not the same player anyway, but this only exacerbated things, hurt them again, against the run and against the pass, although they were getting plenty of pressure late in the game. But I don't know if it's serious. I don't know if it's something he could shake off, but they need him at a level better than he played yesterday, especially with Jordan Davis out.
All right, beginning of the game and the end of the game. Here's the one thing I didn't mind about that first drive. That, they went a little pass heavy when we thought they were going to come out and run. Jalen Hurts did a great job of spreading the ball around. Quez got a catch. Yeah. Goddard got a catch. AJ got a catch. Devontae got a catch. Kenny Gainwell out of the backfield got a catch. So he did. He got everybody involved early, which I think is always a really smart game plan. And then end of the game. I've already been taken to task by some of our streamers. Yo, old man, you couldn't see it. I thought Jalen came up short on that fourth down play. They look like they're trying to draw him off, and then they call a timeout. Then they come out and look like they're trying to draw him offside again, and they run it, and the referee gives it to him. I thought he was a good half yard short, and they got a good mark on the play. I was surprised they didn't at least go to the booth on that one. Domo, am I just an old man, a crotchety old man, get off my porch kind of guy, or did they get a nice call by the referee there?
I think they got a nice call. I mean, I didn't think so. I thought everything was fine until I saw the overhead shot. The overhead shot seemed to be a little bit clear that he maybe didn't make it, but it's really tough to overturn those calls.
Yeah,
because you're in the middle of a scrum and you don't know where the arms are. You can't see the ball if you can see the head, and so it doesn't surprise me that they gave it to him. But and John, you mentioned earlier that the help he's getting on those quarterback sneaks. It's with Dallas Goedert pushing him,
man, it's unbelievable. They're going to change that rule. I'm telling you, they're going to change it back.
Well, it's funny.
Eagles' success.
It's funny. This thing was legalized in 2006, and very few teams have used it. It's like Nick one day said, "Hey, why don't we do this? Nobody else is." They go in motion with three different people, and then Dallas ends up like about 5 inches up Jalen's back and pushes him right through. The one that I thought might have been illegal yesterday was because you're not allowed to pull.
Jason Kelsey,
Kelsey had
pulled him.
Was it Miles? He had him by the head and was pulling him into the end zone.
They never call it though, but you're not supposed to be able to pull people forward.
Right.
And it was pretty obvious he did. So they got away with one there. But Dallas, man, that guy.
We should have a new category: assists on runs.
Yeah, I mean the sneak stuff. Obviously, he's a great receiver. He's always open. I don't know how, but he's always open. And then Jordan starts having problems with Jerry Hughes, and they just put him on that side. It's over. It's quieted down. This is like old school stuff we don't see anymore. As good as Travis Kelsey is, and Kyle Pitts, everybody loves him as a Philly kid, tremendous receiver. Those guys can't block. They can't block a lick. Now George Kittle can. I'll give him credit. He's very good at it as well. But Dallas Goedert, besides George Kittle, I'll put him aside. It's sort of like Aaron Donald at tight end. I'll put him aside. He's the most well-rounded tight end, number 2 behind George Kittle. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely. And John, you and I both know this. I mean, it's ironic. They had no clue what they were getting when they drafted him.
They had no clue.
He came from red offense, pass happy. They didn't know he could block. I mean, I don't even know if Dallas knew he could block. No. But he's turned out to be one of the best complete tight ends in the game. And what they've also realized is this guy's a phenomenal screen player. I mean, they ran 6
yeah.
screens yesterday, 2 more to him. He has such vision when he gets that ball, when they dump it off to him. I mean, it's not only the people that are blocking for him, but his sense of where to go is just great. I mean, you're right. He's terrific.
And another thing that Dallas does well, and so does the quarterback, they know where the sticks are. And they make their moves accordingly. Yeah, every once in a while, you'd rather see them take the outside route and go for a big play. If it's third, they're going to get the first down. Get the first down, know where the sticks are, and take your chances on first and second down completion. But on third down, both the quarterback and the tight end, they know where the sticks are. You know they're going to get that third down conversion.
Yeah. I've always wondered why some offensive players always know where the sticks are, yet they can't see the damn play clock. You're getting ready to snap the ball. It's right in front of them. It runs off. Oh, okay.
Yeah, and going back to the Pittsburgh game, Damo, everybody said, wow, shot play to Zach Pascal. That was all about Dallas Goedert. They ran that tight end screen, and Zach Pascal was out there blocking for Dallas Goedert. Yeah. So Shane Steichen sat on it for about 30 plays or whatever, went back to it, and I think it was Terrell Edmonds. I saw this. Zach Pascal's out there. He's blocking for Dallas Goedert. He jumps to get Dallas Goedert, and all of a sudden Zach Pascal's just waltzing down the sidelines by himself like a nice Sunday walk. That's all Dallas Goedert because people are so worried about him. A little bit of A.J. Brown kind of impact on the team. Boy, I say it's opposing defensive coordinator. I've asked a bunch of people, so I'll ask you to put on your DC hat, Damo. If you were game planning against the Eagles, what do you try to stop? What are you trying to take away? Where do you start?
Good question. I mean, I guess you've got to start with A.J. Brown. You've got to. They can run, they can pass, he can throw to anybody. He's got trust in all of those receivers. They can go deep when, depending on what the coverage is. Yesterday they played a lot of cover 2 and they just ripped the hell out of that. And when they didn't play it, they had another plan. Right now they're as tough an offense to stop as there is in the league, with the possible exception and probable exception probably of Kansas City.
My Eagles coming relatively off the bye, Pittsburgh last week, and then a short week into Houston. But now they got 11 days off again because they don't play till Monday night. Too much downtime for the Eagles? Is this how do we spin this as good for the Eagles rather than, they should be out there logging game, getting time, honing things, still got a whole second half to go. The schedule do them a disfavor here, Damo?
Well, when you look at the schedule, you probably wouldn't say that just based on I think John wrote that it actually is the 12th toughest schedule in the league, as opposed to what it looked like going in. But it's been a winnable schedule for them, and you would have liked to have the bye a little later. You would have liked to have this Thursday night game spread out a little bit, so that when you get tired again, you've got the the equivalent of what the Cowboys always used to get with Thanksgiving. But there are worse things to have right now. I mean, it helps people this close together. Guys that had injuries going into the bye gives them a little bit more time now. If they didn't aggravate it to get better, it gives Jordan Davis time to get a little better. He's not going to be ready when they play again, but. So, it's not awful. It's not ideal.
That might help Avonte Maddox the extra days. We'll see how that. Nick's not going to tell us. Nick tells us, 3 hours. Oh, Jordan Davis, we're still thinking. Then he's on injured reserve 3 hours later. That kind of stuff frustrates me. But
I've looked on Thursday. Teams that play on Thursday, their coaches will not say a word about an injury until Wednesday. Because so in fact, I don't even know is Nick available on Monday this week. After when's the next time?
I don't know. He's going today early when everybody's
flying. Today he's going to say too soon, or I didn't talk to the trainer yet.
He's going in the morning today, so he's going to say I haven't even talked to the trainers. I can tell you, I have no idea Probably doesn't
Exactly.
know Avante's off the field yet. I have no idea.
Speaking of coming back from injuries, and if I'm being overly critical here, feel free to call me on the carpet, guys. We all know Jordan Mailata, and John's suggestion you don't think he's quite 100% right now. He got beat a couple of times pretty bad by the veteran Jerry Hughes. Lane Johnson didn't have the best pass blocking game himself either. He got just completely run over on one pass play. And oh, by the way, did he not get a jump start on like 3 or 4 different plays?
No,
And they
that's
never
every
threw
play.
the flag on him once?
That's
One
every
of them
play.
was so blatant, I couldn't believe it. He got like 2 steps in before the ball was snapped, and they just let him go on with the play. I don't know that Lane's completely back from his concussion either.
Yeah,
Well, I can't speak for Damo, but there's 3 ball stars. You could call those every game on Lane. There's a little reputation thing involved there.
Okay.
yeah.
He gets
You know,
away
both
with it because
Jordan
he's
and
Lane Johnson. All right, I believe that.
Lane taught Jordan that big step. Well, I think they both got it from Jason Peters. That huge step to take off the snap, which sometimes it looks like they took false starts when they didn't. Yesterday it was pretty clear that it should have been called and wasn't.
Got away with a couple.
Yeah, I was surprised.
Damo, you'll remember this name. You remember Tim Irwin, the longtime Vikings right tackle, and then he became an agent for a lot of high profile players. But he played for like 18 years. I don't know, an insane amount of time. And he was sort of in the Reggie White wheelhouse for the Packers. And he did the best job on Reggie White, I think, of anyone. And a lot of it was because of reputation. He had been so round. He would hold, he would grab, he would do it, and they would let him get away with it. And then he finally had to retire. And the Vikings drafted Corey Stringer, who's phenomenal talent, obviously sad situation when he passed away. But he was a rookie in the first year and the second, and they didn't pay deference to him. So he was way more talented. But the Vikings were a worse team just because of the reputation of Tim Irwin, and they let him get away with stuff. I think Lane's got that reputation where he gets away with some stuff. And that little tick, he gets started a little bit early, and he's allowed to because of his reputation. That's my thought process. You think that's a thing?
Yeah, no, he does. I mean, I think that happens all over the league. Guys that have been around and are respected and have reputations get a benefit of the doubt from the officials. What concerned me yesterday, I mean, Lane's going to give up a few hurries or every now and then a sack.
Going to give up sacks.
We'll see when. But, I mean, when Jerry Hughes beat him with that inside move yesterday, I'm like, wait a minute, he doesn't. How could he do that against Lane? I mean, Lane doesn't get fooled that easily. But what concerned me more was on the other side. You had mentioned it, Jody. I mean, Jordan looked like a guy who had read too many of his press clippings. He was getting lazy. He thought he could just push the guy down the field and give Jalen enough time to throw. I mean, you got to stay with him. I mean, one of the things Jordan's got besides an immense body and strength is athleticism with those feet. Yeah. He wasn't moving them yesterday.
He didn't. And Hughes, as John said, looked like the guy the Eagles should have been looking to get their hands on because he was all over the field, both left side and the right side last night. All right, Dom, a quick peek ahead. Although it's 11 days, we got to wait now until they play again. You got the Commanders coming up, the Tyler Heineke-led Commanders rather than the Carson Wentz-led Commanders. I'm going to take the over on the 8 points that Washington scored the first time these two teams played. How big a difference does Heineke make in the rematch?
I think they're a better team with him, but I don't think, I still think the Eagles will, be 9-0 when it's over and win comfortably. I mean, Washington.
Now, Chase Young, they started his practice window, I would think. Now, I believe they played Minnesota this week at home, Washington. So that's a big test for him. I don't know if they're going to get Chase Young up to speed to play this week, but it seems to me they started his practice window to get him ready for the Eagles. That would be my thought process. They got a really good front. I think you're right. I think they're better with Taylor Heineke than Carson Wentz. But I think the bigger impact might be adding Chase Young back to that defensive line because the Eagles had problems with nobody noticed, but Jonathan Allen gave them fits in that first game. A little more concerned now that Chase Young will probably be in the mix.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, everybody's talked about this offensive line this season, and it's it's one of the best in the league. But I don't think it's played its best football yet. There's been breakdowns every week by mostly everybody at one point or another, but not enough to be where it's cost them games or you've even noticed sometimes. But I mean, they need to be more consistent as a group. So anytime putting Chase Young back on that line, I mean, they've got a very good defensive line. I think you'll also see Washington run more against them, especially after watching what Dameon Pierce did. Heineke also, one of the things that was a problem a little bit yesterday was they let Davis Mills get outside a few times because they just weren't being disciplined in their pass rush. They need to improve on that and keep Heineke in the pocket because he can move. He's got mobility. He won't stand there like a statue like Carson will and let you hit him and sack him. So, yeah, but Chase Young is definitely going to make them a more dangerous team if he can play.
Yeah, but do we even know what Chase Young is right now? We got no idea. He didn't exactly finish strong last year. We know he's great at Ohio State. We know he was great early in his rookie season. Last year, he had a pedestrian year, and he was hurt last year, too. So we don't know what Chase Young's going to show up, if Chase Young's going to show up 11 days from now.
Yeah. And, you get to a point like this where when you're, playing like they are, there's going to be and it looked like it was yesterday where they weren't playing as well as they can. And you wonder, there's going to be a game here where they throw a dud and they're going to lose. I mean, I don't think they're going to be a 17-0 team. I don't think anybody
closer. Getting closer.
They are. I mean, I probably Larry Zonka's starting to sweat a little bit, but it could be against Washington. I doubt it, but somebody's gonna, they're gonna go out there and it's just not going to be their Sunday. But I don't think
one of the reasons you because you brought up Jordan, and I'll let you go after this one at PDamo on Twitter. Read Damo to 3013.com, also JAKIBsports.com. The stats package is going to be up after the game instead of before the game because of the early week. So be on the lookout for that. Jordan's not healthy. I mean, that shoulder injury, and I see him a couple times a week. I mean, he's dealing with some pain, and they thought that might be a season ender. He doesn't have mobility. You would think, all right, you're worried about his feet, but that shoulder affects everything. I don't think he's the same guy because of that injury. And all of a sudden, if you have better players, Jerry Hughes is very savvy. I don't think Chase Young is at that point of his career, but him coming in with Jordan Mailata being less than what he typically is, I think people have to start thinking about that because I don't think Jordan's going to be healthy the rest of the season.
Yeah. My problem with that though is if it's your shoulder, your feet you should be compensating, and he didn't yesterday. So I don't know, but fortunately, the good news is this is as deep an offensive line as there is in the league. So if you're going to have a key injury like that, who else has Andre Dillard eventually being able to play, or even Jerry Driscoll, John Driscoll, who's when he started the last time, he was up against Micah Parsons, so that was tough. But they have people that can fill in.
Yeah, that's where I was going to ask you, Damo, before we let you run. I know it's not done in the National Football League. The offensive line plays every single snap if they're physically capable of. Meanwhile, they're rotating defensive linemen in on every single play. Should Dillard just get some run to get Mailata off his feet, to give him a little bit of a break. I'm not saying about replacing him, but I'm just saying throw him in there on a couple of plays. I know it's outside the box thinking and nobody does it, but why not give him a playoff or two here or there if John is right and he's not 100%?
Yeah, I'll be interested to see how they handle him now that the trade deadline's gone and come and gone, because I thought one of the reasons maybe, they didn't want him out there was they didn't want to risk any chance of him getting hurt in case somebody needed a left tackle and offered them a first or a second or whatever.
Yeah.
So
by the way, Tomo, they made Sua Opeta inactive yesterday for the first time, and we were all debating who would be the left guard if Landon, because Landon's been in and out because he's dealing with a foot and an ankle injury. Who would be that guy? Would it be Driscoll?
Driscoll has to be, right?
Well, Dillard played 2 snaps at left guard. I think a lot of people didn't notice at the end of the Pittsburgh game. Yeah. So maybe they're starting to think about Andre Dillard potentially playing left guard as well as a backup.
Well, they've got to figure out some plan for him because, they haven't traded him. I mean, they could have traded him for less than maybe they thought he was worth, but because they thought maybe, okay, there's no place for him. You don't know, is Lane Johnson going to play another 3-4 years here? If he is, and you got Jordan on the other side, where does Dillard fit in? So, it wouldn't surprise me that they'd be more open right now to thinking about him as a guard and playing him there than getting rid of him.
I know I'm pushing it, but I forgot to tell you guys. Did you guys see the viral video of Howie in Houston? A fan had the picture of "You're Forgiven," something about AJ Brown, and he went up to him and he read him the riot act. It was F-bomb, F-bomb. I got you your effing first Super Bowl. F you. Howie Roseman's feeling himself too.
Yeah,
and he didn't need to go as off as he did, but he's well within his rights to point to what he has accomplished because, this team is 8-0 because of a lot of the moves that Howie Roseman made during this offseason. Yeah. Damo, we'll let you run. Always a pleasure, buddy. We will certainly be tapping into you within a couple of weeks. Hopefully by the next time we get you on, 3 or 4 weeks from now, we're still talking about an undefeated team.
Could be. Take care, guys. Thanks.
That's all done.